3 a.m. at the haunted ranch, shocking discovery of an Apache girl's dark warning. The moon hung low, casting a ghostly light across the empty ranch, its beams piercing through the darkness like anxious fingers. It was 3 a.m., the witching hour, where legends whispered of things unseen and horrors unspoken. The wind howled through the cracked wooden beams, carrying with it an eerie cry that sent shivers down spines. Something was stirring at the old ranch, a sensation of despair wrapped tightly around the heart. An abandoned playground, rusted swings creaking without a soul in sight, bore witness to faded laughter long gone. But that night felt different. As Jake stepped onto the creaking porch, a heaviness settled in his chest, an instinctual warning in the depths of his gut. Around him, shadows danced in the corners of his vision, flickering like candles about to extinguish. Each step closer to the barn pushed him deeper into anxiety. The barn door was ajar, a dark mouth ready to swallow him whole. Legends claimed it was haunted by an Apache girl who had vanished, her whispers carried on the wind, her warnings echoing with unfulfilled despair. "What do you see?" A voice trembled behind him. It was Lily, his best friend, clutching her phone, bright screen illuminating fear in her wide eyes. Jake shot her a glance, a quick shared terror. Something unnatural pulled at them like gravity. As they entered the barn, the air thickened, dense with dust and secrets. Jake's heart raced. He could swear he heard a soft sob, a girl's voice breaking the silence, a simple plea layered in agony. "Help me," it whispered, echoing off the walls with a haunting chill. He blinked hard. Had he really heard that? Or was it just his mind playing tricks? He could feel the pulse in his throat as dread crawled along his skin. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." The sobbing grew louder, a soundtrack to their spiraling fear. It seemed to intertwine with the night air, wrapping around them in a suffocating embrace. Jake turned to Lily, her face pale as a sheet, glimmering with tears that threatened to spill. "We should go," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, trembling like leaves in a storm. But something compelled him to move closer. The dread morphed into a twisted curiosity, and then he saw at a flash of movement in the corner of his eye a quick silhouette darting behind a haystack. His breath caught in his throat. Were they truly alone? He stepped forward, heart hammering like a drum, a coarse texture creeping over his skin. What awaited them amongst the shadows of the barn? Would they find the lost soul, the Apache girl, or something far more sinister lurking in the depths of this ranch's haunted history? The answer lay just beyond the flickering light. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he moved toward the source of the flickering shadows. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, his instincts screaming at him to turn back. The sobbing was now distinct, a fragile wail that twisted into the core of his being. "Jake," Lily's voice wavered, breaking his concentration. He glanced back at her, but her fearful gaze was transfixed on something beyond him, something in the darkness. The air felt charged, crackling with an unseen energy. Without thinking, Jake pushed forward, driven by an urge he couldn't explain. It was like a force from deep within, pulling him into the shadows. The scent of damp hay and old wood filled his lungs, suffocating yet oddly comforting. He reached the haystack, barely daring to breathe, straining to hear the ghostly whispers that swirled around him. Suddenly, a soft rustle made him jump. "Who's there?" he called out, voice trembling. Was it the wind? Or perhaps it was. "Help me." The voice was clearer now, pleading. It was a sound that managed to peel away the layers of fear wrapping around Jake, peeling back the facade of bravery that was quickly crumbling. He took a cautious step around the haystack and froze. A figure stood there, ethereal, almost shimmering in the pale moonlight streaming through the barn's dusty window. It was a girl, her long black hair cascading over a tattered dress that rippled like the grasses in a gentle breeze. Her eyes, though filled with sorrow, had a piercing clarity that drew Jake in. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "I am Mara," she replied, her words dripping with anguish. "I was lost, but my spirit remains. They can't let go. What do you want?" Jake felt the weight of those eyes, beckoning him. There was desperation there, a sense of urgency that made his pulse race even faster. How could this be real? How could he be speaking to a ghost? "Anyone who enters must listen," Mara said, her voice almost a gasp, "before they take another." A sudden bang echoed through the barn like a clap of thunder, shaking the very foundations. Jake and Lily jumped back, fear igniting in their eyes. Instinctively, Jake turned to grab Lily's hand. They were not alone. A chilling laughter erupted from the shadows, spinning around them like wildfire. The temperature in the barn plummeted, visible breath swirling into the air between them. Mara's figure started to tremble, a glance of fear flashing across her ethereal features. "Run!" she screamed, the urgency in her voice pulling at Jake's insides. "Wait!" he cried, torn between his overwhelming curiosity and primal instincts for survival. "Don't look back!" the ghostly girl shouted, her image flickering like a candle about to blow out. With a shared glance of terror, Jake and Lily sprinted toward the barn door, the laughter twisting around their ankles, tugging at them like invisible hands. They could feel the air shimmer with haunting energy, the presence of something sinister closing in. As they burst through the barn exit, the night air hit them like a slap, cool and invigorating, but fear clawed at their heels. Behind them, the laughter echoed, fading slowly but never truly gone. Jake felt Mara's ghostly plea resonating inside him. What did she mean? "Who's taking?" he gasped as they leaned against the old porch railing, the moon casting long shadows on the ground, but before Lily could reply, a blood-curdling scream erupted from the darkness of the ranch. "What was that?" she shouted, her eyes wide with terror. The night was far from over, and a chilling mystery still lingered in the air, demanding to be unraveled. The scream clawed through the silence, raw and desperate, sending chills down Jake's spine. Lily's grip tightened around his arm as they exchanged terrified looks, breaths quickening. It wasn't just the echo of fear that lingered, it felt like a warning, a siren blaring out into the night. "Do we go back?" Jake's voice shook, his mind racing. What kind of danger lay behind them? Was it Mara? Or something worse? Before Lily could respond, another shriek shattered the stillness, echoing through the ranch like a heartbeat, relentless and painful. It was coming from the forest beyond the barn, a tangled mass of shadow and tangled trees. Jake's instinct screamed at him to flee, but an invisible thread tied him to the horror unfolding on their doorstep. Then, in the distance, something glimmered, the outline of a figure darting between the trees. "Did you see that?" he stammered. Lily nodded, eyes wide, suddenly filled with determination. "We have to find out what it is. If someone's in trouble, but it's dangerous." Jake interrupted, the words bursting from his lips like a panicked plea. An image of Mara's terrified expression flickered in his mind. "We don't even know what's here." Ignoring his fear, Lily pulled him toward the whispering shadows at the edge of the trees. Every step felt heavier, every crunch of leaves underfoot echoed like a taunt in the dark. The night seemed alive, the woods spoke in low murmurs between them, rustling branches reached toward the moon as if to cover it. The energy was palpable, buzzing in the air, both dreadful and intoxicating. As they ventured deeper, Jake felt the weight of the unseen closing in, an awareness of being watched. The laughter from the barn faded to a sinister hush, replaced by murmurs that trickled in and out of comprehension. "Stay close," he hissed, stealing glances back at the barn, half expecting something to chase them. "What do you think it was?" Lily whispered, suddenly frightened. "What if it's Mara? What if she's in pain?" Before Jake could answer, they stumbled into a small clearing. The moonlight bathed the area, illuminating a small stone altar, its surface stained and worn down by years of neglect. On it, Trinkets lay scattered, a child's toy, what looked like feathers, and something that seemed to pulse with a dull, disconcerting glow. What is this?" Jake asked, his curiosity peeking over fear, stepping closer to inspect. The moment he approached, the air shifted, tinged now with sweet floral scent, but it was overlaid with something rotten. "It looks like a shrine," Lily said, her voice trembling as she peered over his shoulder. "But to whom?" A shadow flickered across the stone, and the atmosphere thickened. Jake's heart raced, visions of Mara's haunted expression flashing back into his mind. Suddenly, another scream sliced through the air, this time unmistakably human, suffused with terror. It wasn't a plea for help, it was a cry of despair that reverberated deep within him. The sound twisted like a knife in the night, pinpricking his skin with dread. "Jake, we need to leave," Lily urged, her grip on his arm now painfully tight, but something stopped him, an icy realization. The scream was coming from the woods, deeper than where they stood. That voice, it sounded familiar, echoing through the labyrinth of trees. "Wait," Jake said. "What if it's someone we know?" Lily looked at him, eyes wide and pleading. "We don't know what's out there. We have to go." Yet he couldn't shake the feeling of destiny pulling him toward the source of the scream. "We have to help. It might be." Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath them, the shadows writhing as if alive. Lilting whispers crescendoed into a cacophony, wrapping around them like tendrils of smoke. The forest was answering, with a final scream cutting through the dark. The choice had been made. They had to move, they had to discover the truth, even if it meant stepping into the arms of danger. "What if you?" Lily gasped, "What if you don't come back?" Jake turned to her, a knot forming in his chest. "I have to. I can't leave them." Just as the last word left his lips, a shadow surged from behind the altar. The figure was no longer distant, it was here, and it was watching them. "Scream all you want," it hissed, its voice a low growl. "No one can hear you in the dark." Jake's heart plunged. They thought they were hunters, but they were the ones being hunted. What would it take to escape this darkness? They had crossed a threshold, and there was no going back now. As the figure advanced, cloaked in shadow, Jake took a step forward, a rush of adrenaline pushing him toward the waiting danger, and the night promised its own secrets. The figure loomed closer, its features obscured by shadow, but a sinister smile too wide and too cold suggested it knew something they didn't. Jake felt the chill cut through him, sharp as ice. This was a predator, and they were prey lost in its territory. "Run!" Lily shouted, her voice cracking, yanking Jake back toward the path they had come. But deep inside, Jake felt a force anchoring him, pulling him toward the danger. It was like a gravity that couldn't be denied, and faint whispers spiraled in his mind, urging him to stay. "Wait. I need to know." Jake countered, his voice almost lost in the thick air, chest tightening painfully as fear coiled around him. "No!" Lily cried, grabbing his arm and trying to drag him away. "This isn't a game, Jake." The words felt muted in the wilderness. Shadows crept forward, merging with the trees as the scream echoed again, more frantic this time. It was a message, a desperate call for help that resonated with something deep within him. He pushed past Lily, stumbling forward. "I have to find her." "Jake, please." Fear colored her tone, but Jake kept walking, defiance fueling his steps. The figure melted deeper into the trees, disappearing as suddenly as it appeared, retreating from view but leaving behind an insistent pull. Jake couldn't shake that whispering urgency. He had to know, had to confront whatever nightmare lived here. "Someone's out there." He called into the darkness, his voice rising, trembling with determination. The woods answered with a rush of wind, rattling the branches overhead, each gust a reminder of the unseen peril lurking close. Lily's breath came in short gasps beside him. "This is wrong. We shouldn't be here." But Jake felt something he couldn't articulate, a connection, a purpose that demanded pursuit. "Mara." He shouted into the blackness, hoping the name would reach her, that it would cut through the shadows and pull her back. Silence swallowed the woods, and then, as if in reply, a soft whimper echoed through the trees. It ignited something within Jake, a flicker of hope in the oppressive gloom. She's close. He pressed forward, heart pounding, each step feeling heavier yet impossibly essential. The forest seemed to shift around him, thorns from low-hanging branches snagged at his clothes as if desperate to protect whatever lay ahead. Lily hesitated, her feet rooted in fear as she pulled back on Jake's arm sharply. What if you're wrong? What if it's a trap? Then we'll find out together, he said, voice steady despite the chaos crashing around them. He could feel the bond of friendship, the shared fear, but there was no turning back now. With one last glance to her, he forged ahead, pulling her along. As they advanced, the scent of decay sharpened, intermingled with the floral perfume from the altar. It was intoxicating, dizzying. Their surroundings twisted further into night, shadows twisting and melding together. Then the whispers grew louder, a cacophony rising to a fever pitch. Join us, stay with us. The tone shifted, taking on an ominous weight, drowning out their thoughts. Panic knotted Jake's stomach. He had crossed too far into unknown territory, a perilous unknown. He could hear Lily's breath quicken, sense her fear heightening as the air thickened, the very essence of the woods seeming to wrap around them. Suddenly, a shadow darted from the perimeter, moving low and fast. Jake caught a glimpse of its form, a small girl dressed in tattered clothing that fluttered like leaves in the wind, the shape of Mara. Or something else entirely. Mara! He shouted again, chasing after the flickering shadow, desperate to reach her before she vanished into the darkness, but as he ran, a pulse of energy surged through the air, crashing against him like a wave. Shadows thickened, pressing in around them, whispers still crescendoing. You shouldn't be here, Jake faltered as the voice resonated around him, something deeper than fear, something primal and ancient. It was a warning, yes, but also a call. What do you want? He yelled into the void, confronting the dark that seemed almost alive. Lily clung to his side, fear palpable in her wide eyes. I want to go back, she cried. But the darkness wasn't letting them go. Suddenly, everything blurred, then exploded into silence. That haunting void, a figure emerged again, clearer now, its face a mask of anguish. Its eyes locked onto Jake's, freezing his thoughts and forcing him to step back. With a glance at Lily, panic ignited in his chest. What is happening? The figure beckoned, deep despair in its gaze, and Jake felt the pull of fate urging him forward for one final confrontation. Don't leave me. Lily gasped, her voice breaking through the veil of uncertainty. Just as he was about to take a step closer to the figure, thundering footsteps crushed through the leaves behind them, drowning out everything. The air grew thick as teeth bared in the darkness. With dawning fear, Jake realized something else was coming. As the shadows converged, a new scream tore through the night, raw and desperate. It wasn't just a warning anymore, it was a promise of chaos to come. And in that moment of clarity, they knew the night had only just begun to reveal its horrors. The darkness enveloped Jake and Lily, thick as fog, pulsating with a life of its own. The sounds of crunching leaves and snapping twigs echoed as the figure approached, its presence growing heavier with each second, a weight that seemed to press down upon their chests. Jake felt panic boiling in his veins, a feral instinct telling him to fight, to flee, to do anything but stand frozen by the figure's haunting gaze. Stay back! Jake shouted, forcing the words through gritted teeth. He wanted to sound brave, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The figure, its eyes bright and wet, reflecting both sadness and something darker, shifted closer, holding out a hand as if offering acknowledgement, seeking understanding. But the sinister smile remained, a curiosity masked by a veil of torment. Lily tugged at Jake's shirt, her voice barely a whisper now. Jake, we need to go. It's not safe. He swallowed hard, fear clawing at his resolve, but he didn't feel ready to abandon the chance to save Mara. The whispers intensified, swirling around them like a storm, the words flickering between clarity and chaos. You can't leave, it's not over. The thundering footsteps were closer now, each heartbeat amplified, resonating like a drum within the suffocating quiet. Shadows raced behind them, and Jake could almost hear the crackle of energy in the air as something, or someone, approached with relentless determination. Then out of the darkness burst a creature, its eyes two glowing embers in the night. A wolf, its fur a wild tangle of black and brown, leapt over the bush, skidding to a stop inches from Jake. It growled low, a sound of warning that echoed through the trees. "Run!" Jake shouted instinctively, heart pounding, adrenaline surging as he shoved Lily forward. They dashed away, the wild wolf at their heels, the air filled with terror as the unseen force that lurked behind them seemed to claw for their backs. Branches lashed at them as they plunged deeper into the trees, but Jake couldn't stop. Each breath felt like it might be his last, every shadow potentially hiding the danger that had yet to reveal itself. What could chase them through the dark like this? What kind of nightmare had they become part of? "Look!" Lily pointed, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. There, in the distance, a small light flickered like a dying star. "That way!" Jake urged, pushing forward, desperate for sanctuary. But just as hope ignited for a fleeting moment, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A loud crack echoed in the night, and in the next heartbeat, the earth split, a deep chasm opening up before them. The light flickered, fading as shadows rolled in, consuming the small brightness that held their fragile hope. "No!" Jake shouted, his chest tightening as he skidded to a halt. He grabbed Lily's arm, the fear in her eyes mirroring his own. Behind them, the wolf stood firm, teeth bared, its growl now a low rumble of warning. The figure emerged again, caught in the stream of light that tried to break the darkness, its mouth moving soundlessly. Still, the meaning was clear. It wanted them to choose, but whether the choice was freedom or oblivion remained shrouded in uncertainty. "Jake, what do we do?" Lily's voice cracked under the weight of fear, her wide eyes reflecting the swirling shadows behind them. He glanced back, feeling the pull of temptation to stay and confront the darkness or plunge into the mystery of the chasm. The whispers surged, crescendoing into a fever pitch that blurred the line between panic and decision. In that moment, everything slowed. Mustering all his courage, Jake turned to Lily, the urgency of their plight driving him. "We have to jump." She hesitated, jaw trembling, weighing the fear of the unknown against the terror that loomed behind them. "What if it's worse?" But the wolf snarled again, the sound snapping Jake from the paralysis of indecision. "Trust me!" he shouted, grasping her hand tightly. With a final look at the figure, he plunged forward, dragging Lily toward the edge. Heart racing, he leaped into the abyss, not knowing if they would soar to safety or crash into darkness. In the moment of free fall, the world around them blurred, echoing with the screams of the lost. And then, the earth swallowed them whole. The darkness whispered promises of chaos and revelation. It cradled them, embraced them, waiting for them to confront whatever nightmare lay ahead. As they plunged deeper, a single thought seeped through the chaos: was there still a way back, or had they crossed a line they could never return from? And as shadows closed in, a chilling question lingered in the air: what awaited them on the other side? Falling felt endless, like escaping all familiar boundaries. Jake's stomach lurched as the air whipped against him, colder than the night itself. He clutched Lily's hand tightly, their fingers intertwined, a last tether as they spiraled into the unknown. The whispers that had haunted them moments before drowned beneath the roaring silence of the chasm, leaving them in a void where even fear flickered faintly. It was only a heartbeat later that they landed, the impact jarring them in every direction. They rolled across a surface that felt oddly warm and alive, melting into the ground as if it were a living organism. Jake gasped as he pushed himself up, disoriented. The heaviness in his chest lightened slightly, replaced by an unsettling calm. "Jake, are you okay?" Lily's voice quivered at his side as she stood, brushing dirt and leaves from her clothes. "Yeah, I think so." He scanned their surroundings, blinking away the darkness. They weren't alone. Dim, ghostly lights floated around them, bobbing slowly like fireflies in the night. The air hummed with a low, almost musical vibration, resonating against the backdrop of an eerie quiet. "Where are we?" Lily whispered, eyes wide with wonder mixed with a tingle of fear. I don't know." Jake replied, taking a hesitant step forward. The ground shifted beneath him, breathing as he touched it. It felt as though he were walking on the back of a giant creature, not solid earth. The lights danced closer, revealing shapes that twisted and morphed in the shadowy expanse. Faces formed, then melted back into the darkness. Jake took a step back, heart racing not from the thrill, but from dread. "Jake, look." Lily pointed, drawing his gaze. In the distance, a figure emerged through the lights. A young girl, her features shrouded in ghostly white, moved with a quiet grace, gliding rather than walking. Her long dark hair flowed around her like ink pouring into water, and her eyes intense and piercing locked onto Jake's with an unsettling familiarity. The girl stopped, her head tilting to one side. "You shouldn't have come here," her voice echoed softly, a wind whispering through a crack in the world. "I warned you not to." "Who are you?" Jake asked, adrenaline pumping through his veins as he instinctively pulled Lily closer. "I am the shadow of what has been lost." She stepped forward, and Jake felt the temperature drop around them. "You bleed hope into this place, but it is a desperate hope. It brings danger." "Danger from what?" Lily managed to say, her voice steady despite the unknown. "The figures that chase you, they are not what they seem. They feed on fear and despair. The whispers want you to turn back, to let go." The girl's eyes softened a touch, as if trying to pierce through the darkness inside him. "They will lead you into oblivion if you do not resist." A chill ran down Jake's spine. "But we need to find Mara. Your friend lies beneath twisted vines. Time passes differently here. You weave through layers of fear. To advance, you must confront your own darkness. Only then can you save Mara." "No. We won't sacrifice her," shouted Jake, the anger boiling within him as frustration surged like wildfire. The girl's expression hardened, the edges of her figure shimmering ominously. "Your anger is wasted. Face the truth embedded in your heart or lose all you hold dear." Jake felt the ground tremble again, louder this time, threatening to shake him to his core. Behind him, shadows danced closer, whispering sweet venom laced with doubt. "We need to move." Lily pulled on his arm urgently, pulling him away from the grasp of the girl's unyielding gaze. "Wait." Jake turned back for one final glance. But as he did, the girl melted back into mist and the lights surrounding them began to fade, the colors bleeding into darkness. "Jake!" Lily's panic broke through as the surrounding shadows thickened, pressing in on them like a tightening noose. "We have to go now." With the urgency of the moment gripping him, Jake bolted, following Lily, the wolf's distant growl echoing in his mind. But one question hung heavy in the air, smothering the hope that had flickered. What was the truth hidden within his own darkness, and could he ever confront it before it consumed him entirely? The shadows surged forward, murmuring promises laced with confusion, and Jake's heart raced as he sprinted alongside Lily. Each footfall felt like a countdown, reverberating through his very soul. The ground undulated beneath them, but he fought against the strange pull, channeling every ounce of determination into their escape. "Where do we go?" Lily gasped, glancing over her shoulder, her eyes wide with terror. "What if they catch us?" "Just keep running." Jake gritted his teeth, his mind racing. He could sense that all around them, the darkness was alive, watching, whispering secrets that felt too close to home. "We need to find a way out of here." As they dashed deeper into the murky expanse, the dim lights flickered erratically, illuminating ghastly visages that seemed to writhe in the periphery. Faces morphed into grotesque shapes, their features taunting Jake, like reflections of his own worst fears clawing at the corners of his mind. Then, out of the chaos, he spotted something. A faint glow up ahead, shimmering like a beacon in the night. "That way!" he shouted, pulling Lily toward the light. Hope surged in his chest, but it felt delicate, like a fragile candle in a hurricane. They broke through a thick haze and stumbled upon a clearing, the strange warmth of the ground now radiating in waves, embracing them. The light came from a circle of strange stones, etched with markings Jake didn't recognize. Each stone resonated, vibrating softly as if they possessed their own heartbeat. "Jake, are you sure about this?" Lily's voice trembled as she surveyed the circle. "What if it's another trap? It's better than staying out there." He pushed her forward, desperation fueling him as he reached the center, the air electric with anticipation. As they stepped into the circle, the shadows recoiled, hissing as if they were being banished. The whispers quieted, leaving only a haunting silence that felt more ominous than before. Suddenly, the girl from earlier materialized again, her eyes locking onto Jake's as if she had seen through his very soul. "You found the nexus," she said, her voice slicing through the silence. "But it's not what you think. What you seek is not just Mara, it is the truth buried deep inside you." "What the hell does that mean?" Jake shouted, his patience fraying. Lily gasped, retracting slightly as the girl flared her arms. The stones pulsed brighter, each beat syncing with an unseen rhythm. "To save what you cherish, you must first unlock the darkness that binds you." "I'm not going to play your game," Jake retorted, stepping back. "We're not here for riddles. We need to save our friend. Your friend is lost in the weave of despair, and only you can illuminate her path." The girl's expression shifted, becoming more serious. "Remember, the darkest moments often lead to the brightest truths." "Stop!" Lily cried out, clutching her head as if fighting against a rising tide of conflicting emotions. A chill washed over Jake. It was as if the ground itself were alive, pulling at the memories he desperately wanted to forget. Visions submerged in shadow flickered within him, faces he failed to protect, moments of weakness, pain that had carved his very identity. "No, this can't be it." He shook his head violently, trying to dispel the images. "I won't be trapped by my past." With each bead of sweat dripping down his brow, he could feel the energy of the stones wrap around him, seeping into his very being. In that moment, the whispers returned, coiling around him like serpents, tempting him to surrender, to give in. "Jake!" Lily's scream broke through the dissonance. "They're coming." But as Jake looked back, the shadows surged closer, twisting into figures all too familiar. Memories of failures. Regrets. Visions of Mara calling out, her voice drowning in a sea of silence. Could he truly confront this darkness? His chest tightened as the figures materialized, drawing nearer, hungry for his fear. The tension in the air exploded as Jake felt the pull of his own past threatening to unravel everything he was. And in that heartbeat, he realized, he had to decide. Not only for himself but for Lily and Mara. "Are you ready to face what you've buried, Jake?" The girl asked again, her eyes glimmering with an urgency he couldn't ignore. Behind him, the darkness loomed, insistent, ready to consume him whole. Jake took a breath, his resolve forging into something tangible. "I don't have a choice, do I?" The shadows whispered once more, promising oblivion, but Jake stepped forward, ready to plunge into the unknown, unaware of the twisted truth that awaited him on the other side. The moment Jake crossed the threshold of the circle, the ground beneath him pulsed with an intensity he had never felt before. It was as if the very earth was alive, writhing beneath his feet, demanding something from him that he wasn't sure he could give. The shadows, once threatening, now twisted and contorted in agony, retreating as if repelled by the stones. "Jake! What is happening?" Lily's voice wavered, a mixture of fear and fury swirling in her eyes. "I don't know." He shouted back, feeling an electric shock jolt through his body as the stones reacted to his presence. It felt as if they recognized him, as if they lay in wait for a key only he possessed. The girl raised her arms higher, and suddenly, the stone circle erupted with light, engulfing Jake and Lily in a blinding glow. The air thick with energy, swirling around them, igniting memories like kindling. Faces flickered to life before him, Mara's smile, the warmth of her laughter, then morphing into shadows of despair. The contrast was jarring, pulling at Jake's heartstrings. "Embrace the light, Jake." The girl instructed, her voice echoing like a distant thunder. Only by facing what haunts you can you release her. Jake bit down on his lips, the struggle within him palpable. The shadows closed in, howling whispers clawing at the edges of his sanity. They were truths he had buried, deep regrets, mistakes, moments he wished he could rewrite. He felt sick, nausea creeping up as the darkness highlighted his failures. "I can't," he murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "I can't face that." "Then you lose her." The girl's words hit him like a slap, igniting a flame of anger within. "No!" he shouted, raw emotion flooding through him. This was not how it was going to end. Not for Mara.as. If spotlit by his determination, the circle burst brighter, illuminating facets of truth buried under years of guilt. Images flashed: his little brother's broken bodice, a friend's pleading eyes, faces finding only silence in his wake. Each recollection stung, each a reminder of his shortcomings. "Remember who you are, Jake." Lily's voice cut through the maelstrom. "Don't let them win." He felt her support anchoring him, granting him strength. A flood of warmth washed over him, rekindling hope against the chilling grasp of despair. The shadows flickered, shrinking as he summoned forth the moments he had tried to forget: the laughter, the promises, the love. They began to merge with the pulsing light, amplifying each other. "Show me!" Jake cried out, arms raised to the sky, desperation fueling his voice. "I'm ready to face them." With that declaration, the shadows lunged at him, but instead of fear, he met them with defiance. He stared into the eyes of his past, the reflection of pain turning into determination. The shadows began to dissolve, turning into wisps of smoke, the faces transforming from monstrous to familiar once more. "Speak your truth," the girl commanded, a smile breaking through her initially severe visage. "Let their power fade." Jake felt it surge through him, the memories now finding voice. "I'm sorry. I failed you. I didn't protect you." He screamed into the dark abyss, tears streaming down his face. "But I will change. I will do anything to save Mara." The light exploded around him, enveloping him whole. He felt connected, no longer a victim but a warrior, ready to fight. The stone circle vibrated with energy, the glow demanding, urging him forward. Then it hit him, a sudden realization. With each admission, each honest embrace of his past, the shadows recoiled even more. The nexus pulsed brighter, resonating with the truth of his heart. "Jake." Lily's voice was a lifeline. "I feel it too. Whatever you're doing, keep going. Face the truth." The girl encouraged, her eyes locked onto his. Just when he thought he had faced everything, a burst of wind swept through the clearing. And there it was, a haunting whisper that seemed to echo from far away. "Not all truths are meant to be embraced." Jake froze, dread coiling within him. Another shadow lurked beyond the light, and it felt familiar yet sinister. It wasn't just memories. It was something tangible, something he hadn't prepared for. "What else is there?" he asked, a tremor quaking through his voice. The girl's eyes widened, horror etched on her face. "That," she gasped, pointing past him, "is not your past, it is your future." As the anxious chill danced around him, Jake turned slowly, heart pounding. The shadows surged behind him once more, swirling, returning, morphing into something far worse than anything he had fought before. Standing there, a terrifying figure rose from the depths of darkness, the shape of dread he had tried to forget, bringing with it a terror that made the shadows seem like mere fables. Fear gripped him harder than ever before. Could he bear to face this horrifying truth? "Jake!" Lily screamed again, reaching for him, but he was frozen, heart hammering in his chest, staring into the abyss of the unknown. What did this new specter herald? What truth awaited as the light flickered dimly around them? The air grew thick, suffocating, as Jake's eyes locked onto the monstrous figure rising from the darkness. It was as if time itself had stopped, his heartbeat thudding loudly in his ears, drowning out Lily's desperate shouts. The figure a shadow wrapped in a cloak of swirling black dripped malice. A pair of glowing red eyes glinted, filled with a rage that threatened to consume everything in sight. "Run!" Lily's voice pierced the heavy silence, yet Jake remained rooted to the spot, adrenaline paralyzing his limbs. This was a truth he couldn't run from. Not anymore. The figure took a step forward, the ground trembling beneath it. "You think you can change?" It hissed, its voice like gravel scraping against stone. "You think facing the truth will save you? How foolish." "Jake!" Lily's panic heightened as she strained to reach him, but it was too late. The shadows swelled, encircling them like vultures anticipating carrion. With a sudden burst of clarity, Jake felt embers of anger ignite once more. "I won't let you take her," he shouted, his voice a roaring shield against the encroaching darkness. "You're not real. You're just a manifestation of my fears." The shadow figure's laughter echoed, a chilling sound that sent sharp shivers down Jake's spine. "You may try to dismiss me, boy, but I am not just your fears. I embody secrets deeper than you understand." It spat, its words drenched in venom. Suddenly, images slammed into Jake's mind like the tolling of a bell. Unspeakable acts, a betrayal that twisted his gut. He caught glimpses of faces forgotten, of pain inflicted not only on himself but also on others. The shadows around him fed on those memories, twisting them into a grotesque form of storytelling. "Stop!" Jake shrieked, clenching his fists. "I won't be your puppet." He remembered Lily's words, her unwavering support. "You're strong, Jake. You can do this." Her voice echoed in his mind, a beacon in the tumultuous storm. Drawing on that strength, Jake thrust his hands forward, summoning the light. "You don't control me," he shouted, channeling every ounce of his fury and sorrow into the circle of stones. The brightness flared, illuminating the shadows and revealing fleeting glimmers of anguish etched on the faces he had wronged. "I see you," Jake cried, his heart racing. "I acknowledge you. But I will not be trapped by you." The shadowy figure recoiled, its glowing eyes narrowing, as though it struggled against an unseen force. "You think this will change the inevitable?" It rasped, retreating slightly. "One cannot outrun their fate." "No." Jake's voice shook, but there was a power in it now. "I'll reshape my fate." But before he could finish, the shadow lunged, its form an unholy blur. A sudden wave of icy dread crashed over him, a gnawing fear linking directly to that chilling prophecy. He barely felt Lily's hand grasping his arm, anchoring him against the tide. "Don't let it in," she urged, fear coloring her tone, mixing with determination. As the darkness pressed in, Jake found his resolve. He focused, calling on the warmth of memories that had given him strength before. He gathered the fragments, piecing them together like a shield around his heart. With a surge of defiance, he screamed, "I choose to fight." The stone circle shook violently, and for a moment, the shadows flickered as if stunned by the luminous light radiating from Jake. But that moment was fleeting. The dark figure snarled, and the chaos resumed, the swirling shadows growing bolder. Jake's heart raced as he sensed a shift. Something ominous loomed on the horizon of the abyss. "What are you?" he shouted, desperate for understanding. The figure reformed, its eyes piercing through the thick veil of confusion. "I am the reckoning," it hissed, the ground trembling beneath its weight. "And soon, you will face the full extent of your truth." The weight of those words pressed against Jake's chest, choking out any semblance of air. He turned to Lily, searching her eyes for answers, but the fear reflected back mirrored his own. A shattering cry echoed as if otherworldly chains snapped around him. In that gut-wrenching instant, Jake felt the world shift once again. And somewhere deep within the shadows, the whispers began a haunting tune, echoing like a warning bell. "Face what you've ignored or it will consume you." A jolt of dread reverberated through him as Jake took a step back, eyes wide in stark realization. What had he unleashed? How deep did the darkness run? As the figure advanced, the shadows closing in with a ferocity that left no escape. Jake swallowed hard, heart racing. Was there any truth left to uncover, or had the fissures of his past opened doors better left closed? Lily! He called desperately. What do we do? But in answer, the shadows screamed, a cacophony of fears reasserting dominance, spiraling down into darkness. And from the depths, another figure emerged, one he recognized all too well. Jake, it whispered, a voice of pure sorrow filling the air. As dread coiled tightly in his stomach, Jake braced for what lay ahead. Was the battle about to begin, or was this just another illusion? The darkness around them twisted in a malevolent dance, shadows stretching and contorting like whispering tendrils. Jake stood frozen, heart pounding, as the chilling figure emerged from the depths. It looked familiar, Mara. But her eyes were hollow, devoid of the warmth he had once glimpsed. She seemed caught between two worlds, swaying like a ghost trapped within the balance of fear and hope. Mara! Jake gasped, reaching instinctively toward her, torn between love and trepidation. What happened to you? Help me. Her voice was soft yet strained, the words a ghostly echo that breathed despair into the very air around them. He could feel the weight of it pressing down, a suffocating force that made the darkness pulse like a heartbeat. Jake, we can't stay here. Lily tugged on his arm, her eyes wide with fear. We have to face it together, remember? Yes, together. Jake nodded, resolve building as he gripped her hand tighter, the warmth of her presence igniting his determination. Maybe the shadows were right, the truth hurt, but it was a chance, the only chance they had left. I want to let you go, Jake spoke fiercely to Mara. I'm going to help you find peace. I promise. A sacrifice is needed, the shadow figure hissed, its eyes narrowing, feeding on their fear. Will you sacrifice your light, your bond? No. Jake shouted defiantly, I won't lose anyone else. The energies in the air stirred violently, swirling around him like an approaching storm. Mara's form flickered with uncertainty, tugging at Jake's heartstrings. Somehow, he had to bridge the gap between them, he had to confront the truth buried deep inside him. Face it. The girl from the stone circle appeared again, her presence a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. Show them your vulnerability. Only then can you unlock the door. With a surge of courage, Jake stepped forward. To save Mara, he declared, I will confront my past. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply, recalling moments he'd buried, faces of those he had lost, the despair that had followed like a shadow. Each memory surged through him, raw and unfiltered. I've been afraid, he admitted, voice shaky yet full of strength. Afraid of how I hurt those I love, how I failed them. The shadows recoiled at his words, shrieking as if his truth burned them. Jake felt the pulse of light from the stone circle beating stronger in response to his revelations. Let them hear you. The girl urged passionately, urging his truth to bloom. And I'm sorry. Jake shouted, letting the pain spill into the void. Sorry I couldn't save my brother. Sorry I couldn't hold on to the ones I cared for. But I'm here now, and I will fight for you, Mara. The very air crackled with energy, the shadows shrieking against the truth that poured forth from him. And as he opened his eyes, he saw it. Mara stood inches away, a flicker of light dimming around her sorrowful form. Mara, you have to trust me. Jake stepped closer, desperate yet hopeful. I can help you find peace. You're not alone anymore. Her eyes sparkled as fragments of light began to circle around them, melding into Jake's plea. The dark figure hissed in fury, swirling around like a tempest. No. You cannot break this bond. You are meant to drown in despair. But the bonds that held Mara began to dissipate, writhing shadows losing their grip. Jake felt Lily's hand squeezing his, reminding him they were bonded by something pure, something that could cut through the darkness. Together. He shouted, pulling Lily closer. They both took a deep breath, both of them amplifying their will to forge ahead. Mara, we will face the darkness side by side. In that moment, their determination collided with the shadows, a bright wave of energy exploding outward. The dark figure let loose a curse, but it was drowned out by the surge of light as it burst forth, illuminating everything in its path. It surged toward Mara, enveloping her in warmth. "Jake!" she gasped, her voice reaching through the surge, no longer drenched in despair. "You found me." Just like that, the shadows shrieked in anguish, collapsing as they tried to escape the light. Jake and Lily stood firm, holding each other's hands, channeling their collective strength to rescue Mara from the void. With each heartbeat, the warmth wrapped around them, and slowly, Mara's features began to transform. The sorrow faded from her eyes, replaced by a bright glimmer of hope. Jake felt that the knot that held his heart tightened and then unfurled, as if liberation had washed over them. "Thank you," Mara whispered, her voice now alive with light. "You helped me remember." And then, just as quickly, the darkness dissolved, the shadows retreating, leaving behind a serene silence. They stood in the glow of the stone circle, now vibrant and alive, cradling a tether of warmth. Jake, filled with relief, pulled Lily into a tight embrace, feeling the weight of fear lift like fog under sunlight. Mara smiled, finally free, her form glowing brighter as she began to fade into the ether. "I'll always be a part of you," she promised, glowing like a guiding star. As she vanished, Jake's heart brimmed with peace. It was the end of one chapter but the beginning of another one filled with hope and light. "We did it," Jake breathed, staring into Lily's eyes, determination and gratitude swirling together. "We faced the darkness." "Yeah, we did," she smiled, her voice stronger now. "Together." With that, they turned away from the remnants of shadow, stepping into the dawn light that bathed the world in warmth. "Live your truth," Jake thought, heart lighter than it had ever been. He grasped Lily's hand firmly as they faced east, leaning into the promise of a new day, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, and perhaps, no matter the shadows, they had learned that love and friendship could conquer all. Now you need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories unfolding. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your engagement matters, it keeps the magic alive. Flood the comments section with your raw reactions and theories about this thrilling finale. What did you think of the dark warning? Did Jake and Lily truly find freedom? Let us keep the conversation alive. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us flood this world with light together.